Welcome, everybody. This is our weekly conversation called Successful People. If you're a successful person, you're here on this call because the definition of success is any person who's taking a step towards their goal is successful. So that means you, right? So welcome, everybody. Somebody said they're from Riga, Latvia, and so I just went online to my picture file about Riga and just did a little zooming, and let's see if I can find it here. Stop sharing. Let's see, there we go. Oh, here we go. So though somebody from Riga has joined us on our call. This is Riga, by the way, everybody. If you've ever wanted to go to Riga, Latvia, Latvia is one of the 3 Baltic states, and it's a beautiful city. And I taught a seminar there a couple of years ago, and in my morning walk, I got a chance to walk through the city. This is the seminar I was teaching at. Levs was the promoter, and so this is Riga, Latvia. That's the fellow who invited me to come to Riga. You know, look how for many of us in America we don't see cities like this. We don't see, you know, buildings like this. But Riga is a beautiful little city. So anyway, someone said they were from Riga. That reminded me of being in that beautiful little city. All right, so some of you have been with us since we started our calls in the last week of March. So we've been here March, April, and May. So we've been doing these calls for about the last couple of months. And the question I want to ask you, for those of you who have been on these calls over the last couple of months, if you've been at least 3 or 4 of the sessions we've taught, what has made this conversation that we have every week, what has made this valuable for you? Has this been a valuable experience for you? I'll just have you go on the chat and just share with me, or you can come out live and you can just unmute yourself and just come out live and say, this is one of the reasons that I like to do this call with you, Bob. So just come out live and talk. Hi, Nikki.
How are you?
Very good.
Excellent. I just want to thank you for these calls because quite honestly, there's just so much going on out there and people are scared, and I love these calls because I just get to connect with positive people and get really inspired. And I started writing my book, and it's honestly, Bob, I really appreciate you doing this because I was just like, I've got to do something different because I can't listen to the outside world.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you all for being here.
Oh, thank you, Nikki. Somebody else share with us why you want to be here. I see Angelica. Why are you here, Angelica?
I've known you for 17 years.
Yes.
In that time, you have been really the most amazing mentor. And the wisdom that comes from these calls, whether they are the wisdom, I mean, I have to send you what I wrote as a result of that Japanese haiku thing on
we did last week.
On last week. And
yeah.
And you reconnecting with my original mentor, Brian Tracy, who I became #1 in Canada because of Brian Tracy selling real estate. And then this, every word is valuable. The time is valuable. It's so inspirational. I took that haiku document, that picture, and I wrote a proposal for the U.S. Navy that was $750,000 because of what you showed me there.
Ah, wow, that's fantastic, Angelica.
So, you know, so all I can say is the incorporation of these, what you initially in contemplation and consciousness of these calls, what comes across is life-changing. And I just so want to honor you for that. I want to honor you for everything you give to us so freely, so generously, with so much wisdom every week. You're amazing.
Thank you, Angelica. I appreciate that. What I want to do is make sure that these weekly chats that we have are valuable to all of you. And
yes, definitely.
so I'm looking forward to learning what more you would like to learn. What areas would you like me to focus on? I can talk about all kinds of things, right? So,
thank you.
you're welcome. I see some great friends there. John Lee. John, got your book the other day. Thank you. I see Lewis. Hey there, Lewis. And Bishnu. Where are you coming from, Bishnu? Where are you from?
I'm coming from New York, but I don't have video. I don't have New York.
Welcome from New York. There's Tom. There's Larry. Aija, is that what it is? Jerison, where are you from, Jerison?
Big campus.
Where? Anyway, so once again, welcome everybody to our conversation today. Let me bring up a PowerPoint. I'm going to share a few thoughts with you today that I think would be good to chat about. I'm going to read you one of my favorite stories. And so it's a short one, but I think you're going to enjoy it. And let me bring up my PowerPoint here. Let's see. There we go. So just like we talked last week, I shared with you the 3 fundamental things that all of us need to do in order to be successful. You have to have your mindset right, you have to have your people skills, and you have to have system skills. And which of those is most important? The mindset is going to be predominantly more important than all of them combined. My thinking about that is the way most people live their lives. This simple little diagram represents the way most people are, with boxed in by lots of fears. The walls that surround most people are pretty high and thick. And these walls of fears slow people down. They steal their dreams. And it's not as if it's, every single person who's on this planet is going to be dealing with fear constantly. And the bigger you think, the bigger your fears. It's just the way it works out. And sometimes when we get stuck inside our fears, we can't see the opportunities that are around us. We're blind to them. There's so much going on around us, but we have these blind spots. What are your blind spots? Well, you don't know what they are because you're blind to them. And a blind spot is where the opportunity that could transform your life, maybe the information that you need to act upon that could transform everything for you is maybe stuck, maybe it's right in front of you and you just can't even see it. Sometimes having a conversation with somebody else who doesn't have your blind spots can help you, because they can say, oh, if you want to get to where you want to go, then you should go this way. You go, well, I never even thought about that. Well, you didn't think about that because of these blind spots, right? And fear is a huge blind spot. It just controls everybody. There are 5 major fears that control people. It's a little acronym that I created to kind of remind myself of what the fears are. But one of these fears, or maybe a combination of them, is something that slows you down, right? I'm going to have you vote here, everybody. I'm going to have all of you vote. So tell me which of these is your major biggie, the one that kind of slows you down. I'll just say them all five, and then you get to vote on the one that seems to be the one that holds you up, okay? And when we go into the chat, all you have to do is just write in the chat just which one it is that kind of slows you up. Fear of failure is probably one of the biggest ones. Fear of embarrassment. That means, what if you look like a fool in front of other people? What if you look stupid? Or you make a mistake and people laugh at you? That's what I would call the fear of embarrassment. The fear of abandonment means it's kind of like FOMO. It's like you fear of missing out. You know, you see all these other people rushing off ahead and they're all seem to be succeeding and you're kind of left behind and you're wondering, how can I lead a parade where people will follow me where we're going? I'm always seem to be out. I'm abandoned, left behind. Could have been a childhood issue, but abandonment it's not a major one, but sometimes it's the major one for you. Fear of rejection, where people say no to you, and it hurts. It's painful when you get rejected. It's painful unless you reprocess it in a different way. You know, and say if somebody says no, they say no. Most of the time when they say no to you, you take it personally. Like they're not saying no to your product or no to this idea that you're presenting, or no to this particular opportunity you're talking about, or no to this knowledge that you're trying to share. They're basically just saying no to the knowledge, not to you personally. But if you're really sensitive, sometimes the rejection, it feels like it's personal, like they're rejecting you as a person, as a human being. And so that can kind of slow you down. Some people are afraid of success. They go, if I'm successful, then I'm going to lose these other relationships. Maybe if I'm so successful, people will start stealing from me. And they'll start maybe kidnapping me, or or my family members, or I know. So in other words, just the fact that they could be successful in the eyes of other people, for them it turns out to be something that they're actually afraid of. They actually don't want to be successful because they don't want to have the consequences of success. So there are probably other fears that we could put up here, but these five are pretty simple. Which one seems to be the one that slows you down? The one that has always been a challenge for you personally? And try to just select one. It could be many, but pick one and then just go into the chat right now. And I want everybody to chat. So we almost got 100 people on this call. So I want to see 100 different answers. Which one is the one for you? All right, so I see, I see Tasha's the one who started it off. Here we go. Failure, success, failure, success, failure, embarrassment, rejection, success, failure, rejection, failure. All right, good. Abandonment. See, sometimes it's embarrassment. Notice how many success ones there are. That's really kind of shocking, actually. Many people are saying that they have a fear of success. Fear of failure and success. How about that for a double whammy? Keep it coming. Okay, good. Ellen, success. The only one is failure, but it's so strong. Good. Fear of rejection, says Patrick. Embarrassment, Nicole. Okay. Now here is the next question then. The next question for you, everybody. You need to think back over your life. Do you remember when you learned to have that failure? Do you remember when it became an issue for you? Was it based on one experience where it was intense, and therefore from that moment forward, you started to have a generalized fear of whatever it was? or was it based upon a combination of a lot of little things? Maybe there wasn't even actually an experience, but it was just the thinking about it and maybe, imagining it. But so the question I'm going to ask you is, was it from one major experience or from a lot of little things? So that's how I'm going to have you think about the major fear that's holding you back, that held you back up till today. It's gone as of today, right? So what was it? Was it a big major experience, or was it a bunch of little things? So I want everybody to type in the chat. I want to see what your response to that is. Okay, so going to the bottom of the chat. Okay. Okay, good. Grade school, says Kim. 2 years old with several experiences of shame. Okay. Not sure at the moment. Not sure about it. Combination of a lot of little things, one major childhood experience, many things, a lot of little things from accumulation of many experiences, many things. 5 years old, a big thing, a combination of things, a lot of little things, many little things, a lot of things, bad personal decision making. Okay, so most I'd say 80% of you are going to say it's a lot of little things. A few of you are going to say, like Gordon's going to say, an event in 3rd grade, and it's going to be pretty major, pretty real. A lot of one major experience is D. Angus later in life. Okay, so I'm going to make a guess on that. I'm going to say 80-20. 80% generally speaking, bunch of little things, maybe a bunch of little tiny experiences. There could be, a combination of failures you've had. After a while, you just kind of learned, that hurts, watch out. The next question I want to ask you is, if you could calculate the cost of that fear. Now, sometimes fears are not monetary. They may have affected a relationship, or might be affecting your health. But let's talk about the cost of fear. And I'm going to have you put a number to it. And I don't want a number like a big number like billions and billions. That's BS. I want you to literally try to calculate a specific number. If the cost of that failure could be calculated. And so you might have to do a little imagining, It might be that fear has stopped you from getting a promotion, and that promotion would have meant maybe doubling your salary, and doubling your salary over a 20-year period of time might have generated, $700,000-800,000 to you. So there was an actual cost to it. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds of silence, and I want you to literally think about it for a minute. What if I could put a number? Maybe the relationship that blew up caused a divorce, and the divorce was, pretty expensive, and so you could put a number there. Maybe it was health. You got all these health medications you take, and these health issues, hospitals, things like that. What was the cost? Okay, so everybody. So I want to see every single person give me a number. I got $1 million. I got Gail says 500,000. Margaret says $1 million. Angelica says 10 million. Okay, Beverly, a midlife marriage failure. 7 million, said John Lee. Okay, good. $1 million for Angus. Cost me for moving into my greatness. Okay, so what was the value of that greatness is the question I'm asking you. My youth life. Ken would say less than 100,000 euros. 10 million, says Kim. 600,000, says Don. 575,000 to $1 million. Shannon's $1.25 million. Good. Getting into the 6 figures, says Nikki. Werner. 10 million. Okay. 100 million, 100,000 a year times how many years? 5 million. Okay, good. Everybody's getting a good number here. Great, good. 120 million. So Heshi came in late, so she wasn't sure what we're talking about. Heshi, I'm talking about the major fear that's held you back, and how much does it cost you? Business is not started. Gordon says 1 million, 100,000, 100,000, priceless. 5,000. Okay, Patrick is getting realistic. About $5,000. Okay, good. Very good. All right. Okay, so now, was the money that you lost, was it imaginary money or was it real money? In other words, was this just imaginary or was there actual, literally the money that would have gone into your bank account? Was it imaginary or was it real? Brian said it was imaginary. Somebody says it's both. Bertie says it's literal money. Werner says it was real. Ellen said it was real. Tavo, I missed that. It's hard money. Yeah. No, it wasn't imaginary. No, it was real. This was real money that was really there on the table for you to pick up. It was hard money. It wasn't play money. It was real money that was lost. Now, in my opinion, okay? All right. So we know what the cost of fear is. It's very expensive. And every time you have a thought, it's not imaginary. When you have a negative thought, a fearful thought, a thought that holds you back, causes you to hesitate, to procrastinate, to put off, to say no, to reject yourself. Essentially, that's what fear is. It's fear of your own failure, fear of your own embarrassment, fear of your own abandonment, fear you're rejecting yourself. So it's a thought you have, and it has a physical cost. And a thought flashes through your head, and most people think, well, that's just a thought. Is it? Is it just a thought? So you were going to take some action, but you decided to put it off. And you've been putting it off for like 10 years. It was not just a thought. Thoughts are things. You know, if you read the Think and Grow Rich book, the whole basis of Think and Grow Rich is two fundamental thoughts. You basically say thoughts are things, and they're not. They're real. They have real consequences, and they have real reverberations from a thought you think. So if you think a negative thought or a fearful thought today, what was the cost of that thought? You know, if you said, some of you said $1 million is the money, the real money that you lost. So how many real thoughts did you think, fearful thoughts, added up to that $1 million figure? You know, just a pattern of negative thinking or fearful thinking, day after day after day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, there were thousands and thousands of thoughts that you thought about it, fearful thoughts. And every one of those thoughts had a consequence. They had a real consequence. Thoughts are real. So if you could actually go into your bank account and watch what would happen to your future bank account based upon the thought you thought today, you could go into the future and look at your future bank account. And you thought a fearful thought today, take the consequence of that thought and go out 5 years from now and look at your bank account. What happened? So those of you who've read one of my books, Cash in a Flash, I talk about that in there. I say, suppose there's $100 that gets deducted from your future bank account, and you could actually see it today. You actually could look at your future bank account and see that $100 was deducted from your future bank account because of a negative, fearful thought you thought today. And you could actually notice it. You came home from work and you checked your bank account. You left to work, there was $2,000 in your bank account. When you came back from work, you just checked online to see where you're at. Did they deposit that check you were waiting for? And you find out that it was zero. There was $2,000 had been deducted from your bank account because of the way you were thinking that day. Not what you spent, but the way you thought. If that really happened and you really had a chance to look at your future bank account, it would be really very, it would change the way you think. Because if you realize the consequence, the actual deduction from your future wealth, because of the thought you think today, you could actually see $100 get sucked out of there, or ka-ching, $100 gets deposited into your bank account. Well, why? Because of the thought you thought today. It was a positive thought. It said, I'm going to figure this out. One way or another, we're going to win. I realize that I'm being challenged in all kinds of ways, but watch me. You know, that's a ka-ching thought. That's like ka-ching versus a slurp thought, which is sucking $100 out of your life in the future. What if you could actually see the consequence of a thought? We can't think that way. We don't think that way because we have a thought. It flashes through our head. It's a fearful thought. Fear, embarrassment, abandonment, rejection, success, one of those. We go, oh, I don't want to be successful because if I am, then my friends will hate me. We think this thought. There's a consequence for that. And what I'm trying to say for the previous conversation, where you told me how much you lost as a result of that fear, because that fear cost you, that was real money. No, that wasn't imaginary money. That was money that was actually headed for your bank account. But you stopped it. And I'm not saying you as if I'm any different than you are. I have the same kinds of fears you do. I deal with them myself every day. We all do, no matter who you are. It's just the human condition. It's just the human condition. But when you hesitate, you slow down, you basically pull that momentum away from something you're going towards. And there's an actual consequence to it. So the story I want to read you today is one of my favorite stories. It was written by Tulsi Sen, and it comes from his book, Ancient Secrets of Success for Today's World. It was published in 2006. Tulsi spoke at one of my seminars, like 2002 or something like that, in San Diego. And I remember he's a very wise man, and I remember him very well. And then he sent me a copy of his book, and I read it, and from it there was this little story that you might have heard of before, and you might have heard me tell before. But it's about the consequences of your thinking, right? So it's called The Story of the Wish-Fulfilling Tree. So let's talk about that right now. Hold on a second. I'm gonna see, where am I? Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right, here we go. This is your bedtime story, children. And I have many bedtime stories I'm not going to share with you today, but there's there's some good ones that I'm going to be sharing with you. I've been buying some children's books, but another time. The story of the wish-fulfilling tree. How to guard the self-sabotaging mind. Your mind is self-sabotaging, as Tulsi says. In a small village far away from anywhere and with no access road to the nearest town, lived a poor farmer. He had nobody, no family to help him farm. He was all alone. In the heat of a scorching summer's day, he had to go to town to buy seeds for his next crop. He had to walk there while the sun beat down on the parched earth, and on him it was hot. Halfway to town, the farmer saw a beautiful tree with long and strong branches, still filled with green, luscious leaves. And under the tree, at the base of the trunk, it was cool, and the shade defiantly challenged the scorching sun. He decided to rest there for a while. Can you imagine this? As he was dozing off in the cool of the shade, resting under the tree, he thought, if he would have a cold glass of water, it would be great. He did not realize that he was sitting under a wish-fulfilling tree. And before you know it, he saw a very cold and refreshing glass of water before him. He quenched his thirst and wished if only he could have some sweets and some food. And lo and behold, he saw a banquet before him. After having had the meal of his life, he wished if only he could have a bed to take a nap. And he was lying on a most comfortable bed before he could even speak his thought out completely. He immediately thought, if only he had a house to sleep in on this comfortable bed, and the house was there before you know it. The fulfillment of one wish led to a larger and larger wishes. Before you know it, he had wanted the most beautiful woman for a wife and had plenty of children to help him in the farm. And there he was, surrounded by family and wealth. When he saw what he got by wishing, he got a little worried. No, as a matter of fact, he got a lot worried. He thought, what will happen if now a ferocious man-eating tiger comes out of the jungle and eats me up? A ferocious man-eating tiger appeared and ate him up. He was still sitting under the wish-fulfilling tree. Now, what does that story mean? The wish-fulfilling tree is not just positive wishes. It's any kind of wish. And he didn't realize that any kind of wish he could wish ultimately could come true. And that as soon as he started to think the wrong kinds of things, he was done. It was over because he was sitting underneath that tree. Now, all of us are sitting underneath the wish-fulfilling tree right now. And every thought you think has a consequence. That's why it's so important to try to keep your mind focused on the things you want and off of the things you don't want. You don't want to spend any time on the things you don't want. Why? Because sometimes you start to feel what it would feel like to have the things you don't want happen, and you're sending out signals to the universe. And if you read the conversation that I had in my email this last week, every week I try to send out a message for everybody to read. This last week, in my Mind Shift Monday message, I talk about the message that came out was called Voices, Visions, and Vibrations. These are the three languages of your mind. And what you say to yourself and how you say it has an enormous influence on your life, positive and negative. Visions, how you remember your past and how you envision your future has an enormous influence on your life right now. And vibrations, that's what you say to yourself. And the images you imagine in your mind have an immediate impact on how you feel. And therefore, if the vibrations that you're vibrating, that these thoughts, that these wishes that you're having underneath the wish fulfilling tree, those wishes, they are vibrations. They are things that you're actually feeling. If you're feeling them, they're becoming more and more real. The more you feel those things, the more real they become. And I quoted, for those of you who get a copy of my emails, and you obviously do get a copy because it reminds you of coming to this here every week. So you would have seen this. You might not have, it might have gone into your spam folder or whatever, but this is a quote from Brian Tracy, and I love this quote. Brian was with us 2 weeks ago. He says, the law of emotion states that 100% of your decisions and subsequent actions are based on emotion. You're not largely emotional, or 90% emotional, or 10% logical, as has been assumed. You are completely emotional. Everything you do is based on an emotion of some kind. There are only two main categories of emotion: desire and fear. Oh, we've been talking about fear today. Most of what you do or don't do is determined by one or the other. And it's pretty simple. It's either desire or fear. And the things you do or refrain from doing because of fear greatly outweigh the number of things you do because of desire. Did you get that? In other words, the things you do or don't do, predominantly fear controls most of your actions or your inactions. Desire is important, it's helpful. Burning desire is really good, but when you're afraid of something, it causes you to move. It causes you to act or not act. If you're afraid of something, some kind of a fear, for instance, I'm suffering some tinnitus here recently in the last couple of weeks. You know, a little ringing in my ears. Oh my gosh, it's freaky. It's like not fun at all. You know, I would have normally thought, no, I don't need to go to a doctor. Big deal. You know, I'm not going to go to a doctor or talk to that. That's just a silly little thing. But, you know, when it gets intense enough, I make 4 doctor appointments. And did those 4 doctor appointments in one day. Fear forces you. It just gets you off your dime, and it just gets you going out there and doing stuff, right? Or it stops you from doing stuff. So the things you do or refrain from doing because of fear greatly outweigh the number of things you do because of desire. The more you desire or fear something, the more likely you are to attract it into your life. A thought without an emotion behind it has no power or influence to influence you one way or the other. If it's just a thought but doesn't have an emotion attached to it, then it more than likely it's not going to move you. That's why it's important to have a burning desire, because that's an emotion. If you have an urgent fear, that's also an emotion. And those things, I want to make sure I'm afraid of things that move me towards what I really want, not away from what I don't want. So when you have a clear thought, positive or negative, accompanied by an intense emotion of either fear or desire, you activate the various mental laws and begin drawing whatever it is toward you. And that's why it's so important for you to keep your thoughts on the things you want and keep them off the things you fear. That was a quote from Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. It's one of his best books. He's written 80 plus books, as he told us the other day. This one is really good. It's a really good book. It's lots and lots of great content. Anyway, back to our conversation about the wish fulfilling tree. sometimes we have these patterns of thinking that are hard to break. And so one of the ways that you break them is you begin to realize what is the predominant nature of my thinking patterns. How predominantly am I predominantly positive thinking towards the things I want rather than things I don't want? How do you predominantly think? And predominantly, it's a habit pattern that you need to actually build. If you had a pattern of thinking fearful thoughts, those thoughts have cost you real money. So it's a habit that's worth doing. Reading good books, participating in conversations like we're having here today, reading good quotes, listening to good music, things that empower you, inspires you. You know, I have a little list of songs that I listen to whenever I do my exercise. I've got some songs that I've selected that make me think positive things, and they're the same. I got like 15 or 20 songs, and over and over and over again, I'm listening to those same songs, the same beats, the same messages. Not going to listen to just any kind of music. I want to listen to music that empowers me and strengthens me, encourages me, right? So today's our conversation was about, you know, the wish fulfilling tree, and what does that really mean for you? What do you wish? Because if you think that with emotion, eventually that starts to flow into your life. You start to attract into your life the kind of opportunities that make those things happen. I know that's just a theory. It's just a theory. Some people don't even believe in that theory of attraction. Some people think that's just total bunk, right? But what did they just think? The thought was in their head that it was total bunk. It was a thought. Yeah, that's just total baloney. It's a thought. So what does that thought attract? I think it's bunk, then every time I look at it or even think about it, I think it's total baloney, creates a blind spot. Blind spot says I don't see opportunities when they're placed right in front of my nose, right? Because it's a pattern. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do is to ask yourself the question, what if I don't do something about this thinking pattern? Trying to think more in a more positive way. Where will I be 5 years from now? So as I look 5 years from now, suppose I still am hesitant, still fearful, whatever one of those 5 fears was. What if it still affects me? Where will that take me 5 years from now? Well, if the last 5 years was real money that I lost, that means that in the next 5 years, I'm going to lose some more real money. All right, so how much will you lose in the next 5 years if you don't change this mind pattern that you have, that we all have? Not pointing any fingers here. We all deal with this stuff every day. So will there be as much in the next 5 years as you lost in the last 5? Okay. More than likely, could be more. Okay. So let's take the money that has already been lost and let's add it to the money that's going to be lost in the next 5 years because of the fear. Let's bring them here to today. Make a pile of all that cash. And let's make a decision. I'm not going to change my mind. That's just the way I am. That's the way I think. Pour some gasoline on all that cash. It's a nice pile of money. Pour some gasoline on it and light the fire, because that's real money that's going to go up in the air, up in smoke. Fear is expensive, and every thought is expensive. It has an actual consequence. Your health, your future wealth, your relationships, your time, your spiritual values. Now, this has been kind of a downer conversation today. I don't want it to be a downer. I want it to be something that's motivating for you. I want you to actually plant some future money into your bank accounts in the future. And just have a pattern of imagining the way you'd like your life to be. Because that's the thought, isn't it? Where do I want to live? What kind of house would I like to live in? Well, what kind of friends do I have at that time? What's my relationships with people? What the loves of my life? You know, what are they like? What's it like? See, when you imagine it, it's like sitting underneath the wish fulfilling tree, and you're basically saying, 5 years from now, this is what I want. So, okay, so you got health. What kind of health do you want? You can imagine that. That's very positive. Like Brian said at the very end of that quote, you know, keep your mind on the things you want and off of the things you don't want. So this is an educational training conversation we're having here today. How do I constantly imagine what I want? Is that being selfish? You know, if I'm always thinking of the things I want, you know, is that selfish? Well, if thinking about the things you want is selfish, what about things you don't want? I think that's more selfish. Think always about the things you don't want. I think it's better. So if you feel it's selfish, then add other people into it. So go out in the future and make sure that your success is now blessing the lives of many people because of what you did. For those of you who have a fear of success, I want you to go out into the future. Imagine that your success is blessing the lives of millions of people, as many people as you want to imagine. 100,000, your city, your town, your neighbor, your church, your school, whatever. That because of your selfishness, if you will, you have been able to be a massive giver. And your wealth has blessed many people. So look at all the wealthy people on the planet. The real rich ones, the real rich ones, massive givers. People will point fingers at all these rich people, you know, these bad rich people, but look at where they give, massively. So it's not selfish for you to do that. It's you're going to become a better person. You're going to work on yourself to become stronger, more confident, and to be able to share some of your wisdom with people, your thoughts and your ideas and your money and your experiences. And as you become more successful working on yourself today, eventually that wisdom gets shared with lots of people, and your wealth can be shared with lots of people. It's kind of like the least selfish thing you could do is for you to be who you were born to be. That's about the least selfish thing you could do. It would mean that you are the you were destined to be. You were destined to do some great things on this planet. And be careful about the word great. I'm not talking about Alexander the Great, you know. So when you change one person's life, that's great. Because you know, when you change one person's life, you change a generation of lives. Their families and their families' families and their families' families' families. The influence from one good example that you create for the people around you, it's just your influence goes on for 1,000 years, and you will not even know it happened. So yeah, it's important for you to learn how to change the way you think about your future and to plant those seeds and imagine what they might be. So today, our conversation has just been about imagining the way you'd like it to be. And thinking about the wish-fulfilling tree. And if you're here today, you need to be grateful that you're willing to invest this time in yourself. So it's the reason I love you guys so much, is because you're willing to take an hour out of your week and let me just spout off some stuff. And hopefully it's valuable to you, but you are investing in yourself. And that's why I love you. I love you for this commitment that you made to just be here on a regular basis. Now, anything you'd like to share about what got through today, what aha you had as a result of it, or any question that you might have that I can answer for anybody today, just put it in the chat and we'll look at it. In the meantime, we're pretty much done for our conversation today. Any thoughts, questions, ideas, things you want to share, your own thoughts you want to share about the quotes that you love too? Yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah, your wish is your command. That's true, John. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Spout away, Bob. Spout away. Okay. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we had we invited a few of you to do a book writing program with me, and we're right in the middle of that program right now. Some of you who've been on that program with us are on this call here right now, and we're just going real deep. We're writing our books, and we're creating our online marketing programs. It's really working well. Sometime in June, I'm going to open it up one more time, probably towards the end of June. So keep watching for that, because we'll open it up just for a few hours, and then we'll close it back up again. It was like we did this last time. So yeah, okay, Heshi, there's your wake-up call. I love you, Heshi. You're awesome. Yeah. Yes, we will meet again next week, Ephraim. Yes, we will meet again. And by the way, let me know what subject matter you'd like me to go deep on. If there's something you would like me to do some research on for you. Aija, you're in the UK, I think, right? So you're staying awake to be able to do this. Okay, yeah, wealth over generations. Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friends, have a wonderful day. Love you. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bob.
Hey, John.
Thanks,
You,
Bob.
Patrick.
It's great.
Blessings.
Bob.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Allison.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
You, Tasha.
So
You, Kim.
grateful, Bob.
God bless you, everybody.
Thanks, Bob.
Iman.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bob.
Bunny.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Bunny. Don't drive off the road there, Stephen. Very good. Good for you.
I just got home.
You
I was
just got
listening, though.
home. Okay. All right. Vanessa. Dale.
Bye, amigos.
Blessings, Bob. Blessings, Robert. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye-bye. This has been recorded, and if you ever want a copy of it, just let me know. See ya. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Bob. See you in Riga.